Welcome to the Game On podcast. Tonight, the Showdown, the Throwdown in the Showdown, a new chapter is written. Promising start by the Crows, but it couldn't be sustained. And Butters, with 42 possessions, wins the Showdown medal. Let's do this. Welcome to the Game On podcast. My name's Pete, and joined once again by Malcolm. And, mate, what was your good from the weekend? Let's start off there before we unpack the Showdown.
Adelaide Uni avoiding relegation in Div 2. It was funny, Pete. I've got to be honest. During the week, it was, whatever will be, will be. You know, look, sick of trying to avoid relegation every year. If we go down another grade and, chance to actually win a flag, good. As soon as the siren went, shit, no. I was in competitive mood straight away.
I think it's like that for a lot of teams that try to play the 1 week at a time, one game at a time, but it doesn't end up going that way as well.
So well done to Graham Kellett and Uni for managing to hang on, and a bit of my Adelaide Uni people out there. First time we've beaten Goodwood in both games since 2006.
There you go. There's your good for the weekend. Well, fantastic. I think AFL football in general was good on the weekend, and we've got a bit to unpack, but I think that we're going down to this last round of the season. There's a few little permutations.
I've got to admit, I'm a lot more interested in the last round of the SANFL, Pete, personally.
No, that's fair enough, and we'll talk about that as far as top spot goes. But let's get into Around the Grounds.
Around the Grounds.
All right, today, a little bit later on, we're going to talk the SANFL. We've got a lot of cricket to talk about, actually, coming into the season, and we're going to do a little bit of a special on some of the retiring legends of the game. But first up, let's unpack the Showdown in the AFL. Mate, firstly, let's go with your thoughts, and then we'll really get into it.
Game was still up for grabs until Rankin's injury. Port had steadied and was starting to look that they may have, but the game was still well and truly up for. That was the key moment.
Yep.
No doubt about that whatsoever. Yep. And he was probably him on one side, Horn Francis on the other, were probably the two who were going to win the game for their individual sides.
Yep. And Butters just accumulated possessions along the way and got a few little cheap ones later on, but we'll dive into that a little bit further. But Port Adelaide had everything to play for, and it showed at stages that to be a tough team, they're going to be a tough team to beat. Pressure rating towards the end of the Showdown was elite performance, not only from the Crows, but also from Port Adelaide. And then, like we said, Butters accumulating 42 possessions.
Yeah, and it's also probably Adelaide. It's still a huge worry that you can still make a massive case that Taylor Walker's their most important player. Effectively, you would have had to end that game. If you're not involved with Adelaide Footy Club, I just would have walked over to Tex. There's next year's contract straight away. You need him to organise the forward line. There is still no doubt that without him, they're without a rudder up forward. Just to get Fogarty and Thilthorpe to go to the right spots and all that, he's still effectively the on-ground coach.
Yep.
And,
Very interesting.
Yeah. O'Brien, obviously very disappointing. I still can't work out why Murphy's getting picked, but, I think that's for Adelaide's last few.
Yep.
Weren't good enough was a big part of the result.
Yep. It was always going to be a tough match going in. Adelaide had nothing to play for. Port Adelaide had everything to play for, but it didn't end up that way. You mentioned a little bit earlier on about relegation and everything like that, once you cross that white line, it's on.
Oh, and Adelaide had built themselves up. Derail Port's year, try and deprive them of a home finals, all that sort of things. I don't think it's going to matter if one's 18 and 0, one's 0 and 18, come the Showdown, it's full on. Yep. And it is for bragging rights. It's, probably, while I think it's a bit of theatre, I don't see a big deal in Rochelle with the teeth bit and all that. But if you're going to do that, be fully committed over every ball, every single time. And and he's not.
Walk the walk, talk the talk. Or talk the talk, walk the walk. It was very interesting that a couple of possessions where he did have an opportunity to put his head over the ball, he didn't. I think that's something that over the pre-season, and you did mention signing Tex, I think he's got to get into his ear and go, hey, you need to go straight at the ball and you've got to go.
Yeah, no, he's got ability, but, geez, he lets himself foot down. And I wouldn't be giving an out to a player who doesn't commit themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the incident with Rankin. Obviously, it wasn't a very, very good look at the time. Houston was in a position, I believe, that he had a responsibility, obviously, to the player. It was a split-second decision. I'm a little bit frustrated with Port Adelaide coming out and using the good guy approach right from the get-go, but I know they're backing their guy, and full credit to them. But I got a little bit frustrated when I heard that, but I went, hang on, the guy's got concussed.
It's a bit of bullshit too as well, yeah.
Yep.
Look, let's read this out.
Yep.
Definition from the AFL rule law book, charge or charging. The act of a player colliding with an opposition player where the amount of physical force used is unreasonable or unnecessary in the circumstances, irrespective of whether the player is or is not in possession of the football or whether the player is within 5 metres of the footy. For mine, that answers it completely. It was unreasonable and unnecessary. For mine, proactive umpire there gets in, lays the report, pays the free kick. Let the tribunal decide. You've done your job. As an umpire, we're encouraged on the sling tackle side of things to err on the side of caution.
Yep.
Well, that's exactly what should have happened. And for mine, it was appalling umpiring. And I admit, I get really frustrated within the umpiring fraternity where it's don't dare criticise another umpire. And it's almost like, let's defend a murderer because he's an umpire. No, the umpire's stuffed up.
Absolutely. I think at the time, my biggest concern was, Rankin and how nobody sort of went to him to check on him apart from the medical staff, and then it sort of got a little bit out of control. Let's just have a little listen to what Matty Nicks had to say about that.
A game that has a moment that seems so critical, do you feel it changes after the Rankin-Houston moment, or were there signs that Port was getting better on the outside before then? Where do you reckon it makes the big change?
Yeah, slightly before that moment. They started to get the ascendancy, we felt. Just started beating us in some really crucial contests and had us pinned in that back third. We felt that. But I thought the game sort of swayed right up until that point. But yeah, no doubt we noticed that upstairs.
So Matty Nicks obviously there at, like you said, right from the get-go, the turning point. Adelaide, it's not their one-wood playing on the edge and that.
Well, they gave away some dumb free kicks.
That's what I'm sort of saying.
They lacked discipline after that. There was
Yep.
no doubt and just weren't smart.
Yep.
Yeah. As much as I hate to say it, Port Adelaide being smarter, that was
the telling decision.
Yep.
I mean, it's Port Adelaide's DNA has been over the years, especially in the SANFL, is that they are that hard, fierce, contested side. And that is their DNA. It was very interesting that they didn't buy into the byplay this week.
Yeah, I still think that's all theatre. Tommy Jonas has played in it before. Maybe they didn't have Tommy's experience around a bit of fun too there. I don't care about the theatre.
Well, let's have a listen.
I think Adelaide lost focus after that.
Yep.
They were too keen on the defending bit. Well, no, get the ball, defend on the scoreboard.
Yep. Let's have a listen to what Kenny had to say about it.
I've been doing it for a while, so I'm not sure whether there was been bigger or a little bit more spicy. But I think they normally got a bit of spice in them. I think the reality is for us, as I keep saying, we just need to focus on what we had to do. I think it was really clear to our players before the game. We are here to play our brand of football, to win this game. I don't care about anything else. I just want to care about us.
There must be some satisfaction, though, given you haven't won in the last 3 games against the Crows. It's always against fierce rivals. Your fans make such a big
I'll bore you. It's satisfying because it puts us in a really good position for a season that we've worked damn hard for. So
they've obviously set the tone. They're not caring really too much about anything else apart from winning the game, and it did definitely show.
Oh, well, go back to the first ever showdown. Malcolm Blight training in the week, walked in row 18, and everyone's going, what the hell's 18?
Mm-hmm.
18 games to go.
Yep.
Guys, it's just a game.
Yep.
One game.
Now, we did mention that it's a new chapter that's been written in South Australian football folklore. Does this change how the Crows approach it going forward?
I would hope in the review the Crows admit they stuffed up and go, right, next time, ball only.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thoughts on it.
Because early on, they looked like they may get the chocolates, and I've got written down on my sheet here that they were good early. They just weren't up for the fight and matching the intensity towards the end. So
yeah, missed a few early too. Like, didn't put the scoreboard pressure on probably as much as they could have.
Yep. All right, let's go back to the Rankin Houston incident. We did put a bit of a shout out on our Facebook and socials about some comments regarding it. Joe Paradiso saying just played his last game ever for Port Adelaide. Do you see that happening?
I reckon if he gets 4 or 5 tonight, that he may then commit to Port, going, right, I owe.
Yep.
I reckon it may turn the other way.
Okay.
So let's wait and see.
So we've obviously got some of the issues happening with Melbourne at the moment, which is where he was rumoured to go. That's been taken off the table. Yeah, you might be right there. All right. The consensus going through most of these messages are 4 to 5 games. Paul Donnelly, 5 down to 4 on his good record.
Yeah, the good record, that's sort of gone by that. I think the AFL have asked for 5. I think he'll either get 4 or 5.
Yep. Bruce Woodcock said end of season for Houston, Rankin and Crouch. Interesting, Crouch never really got cited for contact. He got fined, but he didn't get cited.
I think both Crouch and Lukosius were very, very lucky. Lukosius for the tunnelling and Crouch there. Crouch was lucky.
Yep. Tony Coleman, if Graham Corn says it's to the letter of the law, it's a perfect bump. What are your thoughts on that?
Graham, catch up with the real world, Graham.
It is a little bit like that the initial thought was, oh, great hit, but then, oh, no.
The Dinosaurs, and don't worry, I was one. Dangerfield got suspended a few years ago where it cost him the brown line. I always go, well, that's ridiculous, rara. And again, it's only after your contact and being exposed to Task, Keith Thomason as well, Millie, Dr. Steve, etc., and around the traps, you've just learnt more and more. No, we're 2024. That's not a good bump.
Yep.
And it is ridiculous that the umpire's called play on. He's going to get suspended tonight.
So
that's crazy.
We did talk about this briefly before coming on air. You're in big favour of maybe banning the bump as such.
Yeah, I just think makes it far easier to umpire, and the coaches are coaching, don't bump. So there's a fair few of the coaches want it out as well.
Yep.
Just makes it easier.
Because they're asking their players, if you get an opportunity to tackle rather than bump.
Yeah. And I just think in this one, that the fact that it was debatable still whether – because there's still people think the umpire did make an error. I think that's the bullshit of defending fellow umpires at all times theory. But just make it easier. Just ban the bump completely. And people are going, oh, it's not as physical as it used to be. It can't be. What's happening with concussion, Danny Frawley, Tuck, etc., what's now being exposed and what's happening behind the scenes in litigation, if we want football to continue, it's got to change. Yep. Ban the bump.
So I did have this on my hot topics, but we'll skip ahead to this particular part right now. Do you see a red card being introduced to AFL football?
I think we're getting closer to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And look, I've umpired with it for donkey's years, and I personally am in favour of it.
Okay, so the AFL have come out almost straight away and said, no, we're not looking at it. But is it a case of when the jungle drums are beating, potentially it could change? And from a legal point of view, that it may actually have to come in?
Yeah, I think there's a distinct possibility in that way, and there is more pressure being put on.
Absolutely. All right, Chris.
Hey, look, the Maynard bit last year, that was fine. They changed the laws of the game because of that action.
Yep.
Well, hang on.
Yep, we could potentially do it. Chris Marshall ought to be 6 despite the blind umpires not seeing, 52,000 at the ground seen. You've made mention there, obviously, straight away that the umpire had called play on, which was an incorrect decision at the time. Umpires lost control of the game.
Yeah, a little bit, but then the players have got to be disciplined as well.
Yep. A couple more here from our Facebook page. I'm a Crow supporter. Nothing to see here. Interesting.
Yeah, it's an old-fashioned viewpoint. It's behind the times.
Yep. I did hear something on, I think it was Fox Footy last night, that the romantic will say that he gets enough games just to allow if Port make the grand final. Is that convoluting the system a little bit more than what it already is?
If the AFL had asked for 4, I would have considered that. The fact the AFL have asked for 5, so out of that, it's not a consideration by the AFL. Let's remember the tribunal's independent, so we just got to wait and see what happens now. And we had the bit earlier in the year, and people saying, "Oh, that was good that Charlie Cameron and who else was it who got off." No, they got off because of a legal loophole. They didn't get off.
Yes,
they were still found guilty. It was just there was a legal loophole that because it wasn't asked on the Tuesday night whether there was intent to cause injury, that then created the loophole. It's which is ridiculous, really.
So will the AFL be dotting the I's and crossing the T's
You
on
would
this
think
one?
so.
Yeah. Richard Fleming, 5 to 6 weeks if they are consistent. How does Port end up with a free kick? Well, we did talk about this previously. The free kick wasn't actually a free kick. It was actually a mark to Horn Francis.
Correct.
Now, the umpires in their real wisdom should have actually checked on Rankin to see that obviously he wasn't okay. And almost a bit like the first game for the Crows where McDermott got knocked out by Brereton, they went back and obviously reported at the time. I can sort of see why that could have happened, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, I thought it was reactive, not proactive umpiring.
All right, last couple here. Mark Ducker, he listens obviously to the podcast or is commenting here. Spot on to Richard Fleming on both comments, so a bit of consistency there. And then
on one night too.
Ryan Bolton obviously saying 4 to 6 weeks. So the consensus is between 4 and 6 weeks at the moment. Do we see the AFL saying 6 weeks and maybe down to 5? Or could he get more? I mean, David King was saying 8.
Yeah, Kingy always goes a bit on the thing there. I'd be surprised if he gets more than 5. Let's remember the ball. It wasn't a case of off the ball.
Yep,
the ball was still there. But I'll be surprised if it's more than 5. I think it'll either be 4 or 5.
Yeah, I'm thinking 5 is around about right. I think they'll ask for 6, maybe.
No, they've asked for 5.
Sorry. Oh, they have asked for 5.
Yep,
Sorry,
yep.
I didn't see that one come through.
Yep.
All right, let's stick with Port Adelaide just for a brief second. Again, Houston being out, this completely hurts their chances.
Oh, he's a key player.
Yeah.
Let's remember he is an All-Australian halfback. He's arguably the best halfback flanker in the competition. So he's a crucial player. So, yeah, wait and see how much that hurts him. But, yeah.
How do they reshuffle that? Because, I mean, from the outside, it looks like the Radaglia move out of the back lines has actually balanced them a little bit better.
Yeah, Dylan Williams, he can play. He comes back in. Halfback flank's probably an easier spot to cover. It means they're probably not going to as much rebound from there. The person's not going to be as good at rebound as Houston. That's the area where it'll hurt him. But, yeah, or Jones goes back, whatever.
Is Burton too tall?
No, he may go back
Another
as well.
option as
he
well?
May go back as well.
Okay.
Depending on if Georgiades comes up.
That was my next point. You led me into it beautifully. Marshall, Georgiades.
Yeah.
Who are you going with first if there's only one spot available?
Georgiades.
For me as well. If Port, let's just say Houston does decide that I'm out, trade me. Port are looking for 2 first-round draft picks. Do they stick with a couple of younger ones or do they use those first 2 picks or one of those first 2 picks to get an experienced player through the door?
Depends what else becomes available and your needs and all that side of things. Oh, look, I think 2 first-rounders is way overs, but the fact he's contracted means he can play hard ball in that way. So wait and see.
It is, we're going to obviously, as we get towards that silly part of the year and draft picks and trading all comes on the table. We'll talk about that a little bit further in Trade Whispers. But let's go back to Adelaide a little bit. Their home run hasn't exactly been great, but it hasn't been totally shambolic either. Obviously, the game against Essendon where they got up by a couple of points. The Hawthorn one was probably the outlier, but we all know how good Hawthorn are at the moment. They were competitive against Geelong, just probably lacked a little bit of composure as well. They were brilliant against the Bulldogs, and I thought they were good against Port.
Yeah. Oh, look, it really was a game of fine line, fine inches. Again, I just think I would love that to a game of being played with Walker playing.
Yeah, that does make a big difference.
Yeah. Admittedly, Georgiades out for them as well. I'm not saying in that regard. I'm saying more Walker for his organisation skills.
Do you think he would have calmed Fogarty down?
Yes.
Because Fogarty was like a red rag with the ball. He was just looking to
text comes in, pull your head in, let's worry about the ball. Guess what?
Yep.
He worries about the ball.
Yep. Fair enough. Just to finish off, obviously Adelaide playing Sydney in the last round. What do we expect from Sydney? Are they, considering they've pretty much they have sewn up top spot?
Yeah, they may rest a few. We just got to wait and see. It depends on who saw. You've also got to remember too that there already is a week off the next week. So if you rest guys this week, they're not going to have played for 3 weeks.
Yep.
Then if they win, it's another week off.
Yep.
Off, and so it's you've played 1 game in 5 weeks. So for mine, I play people unless they're carrying an injury. If Grundy's carrying a groin, whatever, yes. But if they're right to go, for mine, they play.
And they've been they've been the team that obviously have kept a stability of most of their team for a good chunk of the season. They haven't had a lot of the injuries that a lot of the teams had earlier in the season.
Let's also remember, it's not like Sydney have been setting the world on fire. They got beat by 112 points 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. For mine, I'm still wanting to build form in. If I'm Sydney, I want to win this week and win convincingly to try and get a bit more belief. They rest guys, and if Adelaide get up, I reckon that hurts them. So I'd play.
Yep. They weren't great against Essendon, but Essendon weren't great either. No. So we'll talk about that one a little bit.
Some of us were
further.
watching a more important game at that stage.
Absolutely. That would have been at the parade, I'm sure. Last thing on Adelaide, player breakthrough of the week, or SANFL breakthrough player of the week, Tyler Welsh. Did see some of his highlights a little bit earlier on today. He looks like a ready-made forward.
Oh, Tyler's got a lot of ability. I think there's still a bit of progression, he needs to bulk up a bit, but there's a fair bit to work with. He's
waiting and leading and when to go. Very footy smart. That's probably the word.
I rate him. I've obviously watched him a fair bit. Commentated a fair few games he's played in and all that. Commentating's a different story. But
absolutely.
Yes.
And then obviously, as you mentioned last week, the Crows would love to get their hands on Sid Draper from South Adelaide. So there you go. All right, let's move on to some hot topics, mate. Let's go with West Coast Eagles. Could Don Pike be the answer to West Coast coaching dilemma? Because since our podcast last week, another couple of coaches have come out and said, nah, not making the move, not coming over to Western Australia.
Yeah, I think they probably may have gone a bit early and all that. And I don't think Pike can get the GM role, be involved in the coaching, and then sort of go, oh, bugger it, I'll do it then. I don't think he can do that. I think he'd lose credibility doing that. And that's not Don Pike.
No, he seems more the organised, back of the house, let's get this thing going. Yeah. They've got some massive decisions to make, West Coast, not only from a coaching point of view, from a playing point of view as well. Their list over 30 years of age is just
They've made
huge.
some horrendous list decisions over the last few years, and you do that stuffs you up for years.
That COVID sort of was the start of that.
I can see them being still down for a fair while. So
can you see them bouncing? I know you just said I can see them being, but can they bounce like, say, a Hawthorn?
I don't think they've got that on the list. I think they're going to have to make a fair few list decisions, and with Darling, Gaff, McGovern.
It's age that's the problem. They don't have trade currency, do they?
No.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting watch. All right, we did mention before, red card or no red card. How do you adjudicate it?
Oh, it's still going to have to be done upstairs as well.
So we've been...
It's interesting on that one. Lee Matthews saying, it isn't ironic coming from Lee Matthews, how much damage he did to people, the greatest footballer ever, what he did there.
Yep.
Saying, right, well, you've put a player out for the game, you go out for the game. Now, I'm not so sure. I'm still saying, for mine, the real blatant one this year was obviously Webster in the pre-season.
Mm-hmm.
That was just terrible.
Yep.
I think he got off very lightly. I think he should have got over 10.
10, yep.
So that was the blind, and Hall on Staker, that sort of thing. Yes, that's a send off. This one.
Okay, so
it's interesting, but if ban the bump,
yes,
well then that probably
takes away a little bit. So we've talked at nauseum about no 4 umpires, go back to 3 umpires. Yep. Could that 4th umpire be utilised better with footage at the ground through the broadcasting?
Yeah, but I hope they have a football person involved there too. Like, as I've said, I've got a real problem with a lack of umpires there's very few who've played adult football, and I still maintain it's a game you've got to play. Don't have to play at the elite level.
Yep.
You play Wingfield at Wingfield or Kilburn now. You have eyes in the back. You learn. I just think it's a game you've got to have played.
It's a touch and feel thing, isn't it? That you've got to experience it.
There's too many out there with a lack of nous. And as I've said, I go on about it all the time. I want a past ruckman being used as a ruck coach with the umpiring because the majority don't understand it.
Like a Matty Clark or a Sauce Jacobs or Madden.
Yeah, whatever.
Whoever. Cruiser. Yep. All right, let's move on. The wild card round will happen. It will happen now. They can't ignore it. The AFL can't ignore it. It brings a totally new element to the game, and especially with the way that the ladder may end up this weekend. Could you imagine if Carlton and Collingwood were playing in a wild card game?
Yeah, how huge would that be? So, yeah, I think it'll come. And look, the fact it's been so even, it's not like there's 3 games between 8th and 9th. 7th to 10th, it's a bee's dick. 7 plays 10, home game advantage. 8 plays 9. I think it will happen. And, I've got no problem with it coming in.
So that would then clearly take away the bye round before the start of the finals.
Yep.
The AFL have put the women's opening round in that bye round. How does that then play out?
They'll work their way around it.
So does that mean, say, a Thursday night, Friday night for the men's and then a Saturday, Sunday for the women's?
Possibly,
So that way it gives you the 4-day
football
fest again?
Along those lines, I still don't get over personally. For mine, the female had the perfect time. I think it's ridiculous. You don't finish the main movie and then start. You don't and start an entree after a main movie or after a main meal. For mine, I think it was crazy what women's footy did.
But is it a case of the AFL wanting to stay in the limelight, or
but then
365 days a year?
They do. No, 366. They don't forget leap year.
Yep.
No, we know they want that, but then you've still got that from February onwards anyway. I just think it's...
Well, we've got it from the end of the season, pretty much right from the get-go. It's who's being traded, who's being drafted, who's... you're going up till Christmas anyway.
I think it's crazy.
All right. How much power has been given to the players with regards to contracts being so long and then wanting out? I'm obviously alluding a little bit to the Petrarca signing for 7 years, 5 years still left on the contract, potentially wants out.
Yeah, potentially. 8 million rumours and all that. But, I think, hang on, you've signed a contract, you honour your contract. I think, yes, at the moment, you might as well not even bother to have it.
Yep.
It's just a waste of time.
But could we see a little bit more like the American system where a club will take on that contract and then on-forward it to the new team? A bit like the Grundy situation?
It is going. It's heading towards that.
Because he was getting paid by Collingwood, then by Melbourne, and now by Sydney, who got him probably for bargain-based prices. Very interesting to see how that one plays out. Free agent signs for 5-year deal for the Western Bulldogs. Tim English is off the market, which I know you're probably a little bit disappointed that you would have loved to have got him to the Crows.
Yes, Tim English or Gallucci, and that was one where Don Pike did stuff up on because, trust me, he overruled the recruiters. They wanted English.
Yep. We're one step closer to the finals. Who's your favourite to make it? We won't worry about who's going to win it. Let's talk about the 4 teams that are in danger there of obviously Fremantle. Fremantle, Collingwood are still sort of a mathematical chance.
No, Collingwood have got to win by over 100 and obviously shouldn't lose by... No, they're gone.
Yep.
I think the 3 at the moment, Collingwood, Port, GWS. So...
Okay.
Come on, GWS.
Yeah.
In terms of GWS, whoever plays Port.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting finish to the season.
Sydney, Port, GWS.
Yep.
Sorry.
Absolutely. All right. A couple of trade whispers. We did talk about Dan Houston. Alex Neil-Bullen has requested a trade back to South Australia. Who early do you see might be the front runner there?
I think Adelaide. I think they've got a little bit more currency than Port and all that. But it's... For mine, I think it's a bit of maturity. He's asked it, and good that Melbourne played him on the weekend. Didn't do this bit, and then it would have been a threatening of legal stuff from Bullen's camp. Hang on, I'm of art and all that. I think just maturity.
Yep.
Bang, you play.
Luke Parker, Jack Lukosius.
Yeah, both possibilities. I think it'll depend what happens with Sydney the rest of the year. If Parker's in the side and they go through, I think he stays at Sydney.
Yep.
I think Lacoste has a big chance to come back.
Yep. Could he go anywhere other than the Adelaide teams? Potentially? Bless you.
Excuse me. Yeah, I think there's a chance there. There'll be other teams come in. You know, you think Collingwood probably lack forwards, Melbourne lack forwards. So yeah,
that's why I asked.
Yeah, I think other clubs will come in and have a crack. So yeah, I don't think it's a fait accompli that he comes to Adelaide.
No, fair enough. And the last one I've got on the list, and we've talked about him a few times, is Matthias Philippou. Can the Crows pry him out of St Kilda, do you think?
No.
There you go. Straight answer. There you go. Yeah. The Rising Star nomination for round 22 was Kausha Deer from the Hawthorn Footy Club, son of obviously former and past legend Paul Deer.
Yeah, so good footy story. He's been pretty consistent since his second half of the year. He's had a good block of 5 or 6 games where he's been kicked goals, competed well. So yeah, good reward for a block of form.
And like we've said before, all the Hawthorn team look like they're having a lot of fun, and he's probably no exception. So let's leave that one there. Let's move on to just quickly going through some of the games from the weekend. Melbourne getting up by 54 points over the Suns. Was that a surprise for you?
Yes, considering it was up there, the first team to win up there for the year. And yeah, Gold Coast were really disappointing too.
Damien Hardwick's got some headaches, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's surprising with that.
Absolutely.
List. Yeah.
Swans getting up over disappointing Essendon from that game, and we're going to talk about him a little bit later in our past players, class of 2024 retiring. Dyson Heppel not getting a farewell game at Marvel.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised by that. And see, Dylan Grimes has been added today as well in terms of that list.
Yep.
I am surprised.
Did Essendon or Scotty not read the room?
I think so.
He did that a bit at North Melbourne.
Yeah, I just think in that way that, hang on, he was the one who stuck up for Essendon after what they went through. And out of that, you can say the players were naive, but the players weren't driving that bus.
Yep.
So, yeah, when they stuffed up massively.
Absolutely.
Still won't ever understand any Essendon supporter defending her, but that's personal. Yep.
That's all right. We'll move on. Collingwood coming back to beat the Brisbane Lions by a point. They just get on a roll, Collingwood, and do the unbelievable.
Yeah, and Zach Bailey, unfortunately, he didn't feel the player coming. Even just a quick kick forward might have been enough for them to hang on. So, yeah, that was a bit... But geez, they do stick out at Collingwood, give them their due there. But, yeah, Brisbane lacked composure in that last few minutes. They really made some poor choices in the crunch.
They've had enough practice at it over the course of 3 or 4 years now that you would expect them to get them right. Yeah. Is it a case that Collingwood might be their bogey side?
A little bit, but, yeah, again, the worry was the panic and their lack of system and a surety in that last 5 or so minutes was pretty average.
The Geelong St Kilda game was sort of keeping a bit of an eye on that while watching the Showdown on Saturday night there at halftime.
I just
looked like Geelong by how much?
I didn't worry about having a look till later on. St Kilda ran all over
saw the score at the bottom of the screen and it just kept getting closer and closer. And then all of a sudden, St Kilda just went way past Geelong and went, what the hell happened? Look back at the results and
I watched the highlights since, and their ball movement and all that was good, but Geelong there were pretty disappointing.
The Bulldogs putting North Melbourne to the sword by 98 points. Do we sort of expect that from, say, Richmond, North Melbourne, West Coast at this time of the year because they're winding up for the season? Yeah,
and the lack of depth gets exposed. And
young kids just
well
can't
done to Sam Darcy, 7 goals. Yeah,
absolutely. Hawthorn getting the job done by 63 points over Richmond. There, they're building some form.
Day getting injured's a worry.
Yep.
We've just got to wait and see on that one. There's no doubt he'll try and play and he'll carry it, but we'll see how he goes because he's vital. He's arguably their best player.
Yep, absolutely. And that's why Adelaide were so keen to go after him right from the get-go. You'd love him at the moment. And my team, Carlton, went over to the West Coast with really nothing to lose but everything to lose at the same time.
From the team they put on the park, I think that's West Coast arguably worst performance for the year. For all 6 changes of injury, and I think it was 17 or 18 unavailable all up on Carlton's list. It was huge, and yet West Coast weren't even competitive after the quarter time. Kicked the first 2 goals of the game to West Coast, and then just fell away dramatically and, really average.
So Paddy Cripps obviously in the conversation there. It was a superb captain's performance.
Yep, led from the front.
Does that sort of cement him potentially for All-Australian captain?
Yeah, I think there's him. There's Bonts obviously in the equation as well. So I think it might be one of the 2 of them.
All right, let's get on to some tips really, really quickly. Round 24, Melbourne v Collingwood.
I'll go Collingwood.
I'm going to go Melbourne.
Yeah, toss the coin.
Yep. Geelong v West Coast.
Geelong.
Geelong for me. Richmond v the Suns.
I want to go the Suns.
At the MCG. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I reckon the Suns as well. Good call. Hawthorn v North Melbourne. Hawthorn for me. Brisbane v Essendon. Brisbane. Sydney v Adelaide. Sydney. All right, now here's where it gets interesting, and this is where all the permutations are coming from. Bulldogs v the Giants. It's down at Mars Stadium in Ballarat.
I'll go Bulldogs, but it really only because it's sort of at home. It's a toss the coin job. Apparently 19 degrees they're predicting on Saturday, so it's not going to be your cold
No, that's
Ballarat.
a summer's day in Ballarat.
Yeah. There could be nude sunbaking in the air at Ballarat with 19. So out of that maybe probably does help the Giants. So a real toss the coin job.
Anyone going to that game, bring your sun cream, that's for sure. Especially if they're going to be nude sunbathing. Yeah, that's a beauty. Carlton v St Kilda.
Yeah, I'll go Carlton, but again...
Well, we've seen the best of St Kilda and we've seen definitely the worst.
Yeah.
Which one comes out?
And Carlton still with a lot of injuries. That is a real toss the coin job. Yeah, whether St Kilda is a bit more relaxed, it's last round. Carlton a bit more on the edge, playing to St Kilda's hands. So yeah, toss the coin.
Carlton.
I'll go for St Kilda actually.
Oh, you go for St Kilda. I'm going to go for Carlton, but Carlton had a different look about them without the 2 tall
a bit
timbers,
less predictable,
which did make them predictable. So that gives Michael Voss a little bit of
maybe
ammunition, I suppose, that he can mix things up a little bit.
Maybe.
Do you change your winning lineup?
I don't know if they're going to get many back.
That's what I'm saying.
So
do you change it if they do come back?
Yeah, I don't think. I think it'll be pretty similar.
And the last game of the round, Fremantle v Port Adelaide in Perth there at Optus Stadium.
Port playing for second spot. They're effectively playing for. Well, they may be playing for a home final if GWS win. If GWS lose on the weekend, all of a sudden Port have probably got less to play for. Fremantle more to play for. So it may depend on games the day before. So go GWS on the Saturday.
Absolutely.
Look, hopefully Freo get up, but I'll go for Port.
I'll go for Port Adelaide there as well. All right, mate, we've covered a lot of topics right off the bat here. We're going to take a very, very quick break. And coming up, we've got the SANFL, Sturt, vying to take top spot. And the Redlegs trying to maintain top spot. So it should be very, very interesting. We're going to talk cricket. Tim Payne announced strikers, captain, coach, and some retiring legends. We're going to talk about them.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
A dents and scratches putting a dent in your day? Introducing Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide, your trusted solution for automotive woes. With over 2 decades of expertise, Roger Steen Crash Repairs guarantees top-notch service, restoring your vehicle to its former glory in no time. From minor dings to major collisions, our skilled technicians handle it all with precision and care, using state-of-the-art equipment and techniques.
Roger Steen Crash Repairs saved my car. It looks brand new.
Fast, friendly and reliable. I wouldn't trust anyone else with my vehicle. Don't let accidents slow you down. Visit Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide at 14 Penner Avenue, Glynde, for quality service you can count on. And here's a special offer just for our listeners. Mention this podcast and receive a $100 discount on your repair. Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide. Excellence in every repair.
All right, let's continue on with Around the Grounds. Round 17 in the SANFL. Nord getting up over North Adelaide. Friday night at the parade, a little bit damp, but Nord played like it was dry weather conditions at times.
Yeah, we weren't. It wasn't too bad, actually. Conditions were a little bit better than expected. I've got to be honest, it was a worry during the reserves game because there was probably only about 500 people there. People came late.
Yes.
So we ended up about 2-3, I think they declared. So I still think it's time to get... As a personal thing, I think we've got to remember those of us who follow SANFL are older in general.
Mm-hmm.
And the Friday night bit of the beers on Cooper's Hill and all that, those days are over. And I still think it should be Saturday games, but that's...
Yep.
But then also, hang on, Nord have had the oval with the lights done up, so you want to use that. So I understand Nord's point of view.
Is it a case of that it was a little bit damp, a little bit wet, people weren't...
It doesn't help.
Yep. Because if the warmer weather's there, then Cooper's Hill's pumping and, there's a lot more people sort of there.
Well, parade in general is a more a hive activity, the street and Nord is an area. So, they were a bit unlucky with the weather.
Yep. Would like to see, obviously, more Friday night games during the warmer months if possible. Maybe starting the season a little bit earlier, but we'll talk about the SANFL and what they can do to attract some more people to the games. Central Districts getting up over Glenelg by a point was a little bit of a shock. Not a huge shock, but a little bit of a shock.
But Central's hadn't kicked a goal at half-time. Glenelg looked to be in control and, then came over. So that's huge. So Central's play Port this week. Huge chance to keep hold of third spot, and Glenelg have to start their premiership defence from the elimination final.
Which I did not see coming.
No, not at all after they beat Nord 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Very surprising.
Woodville West Torrens back on the winners list with a pretty convincing victory over South Adelaide, but they are playing a lot of their youngsters at the moment, so totally understandable.
Yeah,
but
a lot of kids at South, and just hopefully they'll stick together.
Yep. And
as a group. Woodville
getting back on the winners list, they haven't had a good 3 or 4 weeks, but almost cementing themselves now in the top 5.
No, not really. It's up to them.
Well, they've given themselves a good opportunity to cement
at least
themselves.
it's in their hands. If they win this week, they make it.
Yep.
If they lose, Crows have got to beat
Sturt
for them to miss.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to, that they've put themselves in a good position to secure a final spot. Sturt getting up over West Adelaide there. We did sort of say that Westies have a good record against Sturt, but Sturt really are the form team. What is it, 12 in a row now?
Yeah, and we're obviously keeping an eye on the scores at Goodwood. And when they were only a goal down, 21-27. So come on, Westies, and at least Sturt mightn't get the big percentage boost, but then they pull right away, and it's only a couple of goals to difference. So Nord could still win on the weekend, but lose top spot.
Yep.
So it's a big week of footy.
It is, and in the pre-Showdown, Adelaide getting up over Port Adelaide reasonably convincingly there, which was a surprise. Does that sort of show where the squads are at the moment?
Yeah, I think Port's a bit younger, and they went, or where they drafted their talls like Scully and all that, that was a projection for 3 to 5 years away. So, yeah, in that way, and Port have probably had a few more injuries overall than Adelaide. So, yeah.
So there's a case of Porter ahead of the Crows in the AFL at the moment, age profile and games profile wise, but they're behind Adelaide in the SANFL with that same sort of scenario.
Yeah, it's probably a query of where guys are at on both lists of 25 and played enough games, and like Adelaide keep persisting with Murphy, Murphy, and again, I know I'm a broken record, but Ruck 7 years later. Yeah.
Well, there's no easy answer to that. Through the SANFL or who they can recruit at the moment.
Now there isn't. I just don't think it's forgivable over 7 years. So Lloyd, Meek, there's been ruckman around even this year. Hey, you think there's the week before Rob O'Brien's beaten English. Now Jordan Sweet couldn't get a game at Western Bulldogs behind him. He's come in and gone, well, shove you right up you. He's not only beaten O'Brien. Hey, hang on, Western Bulldogs, you wouldn't pick me. So he's probably a huge winner out of last weekend.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the last round, round 19. Glenelg v the Panthers, South Adelaide.
Yeah, I'll go for Glenelg.
I'll go for Glenelg there as well. Central Districts v Port Adelaide. This is an important game.
At the Ponderosa, I'll go for Centrals. Port trying to avoid the wooden spoon.
This is what I was just about to say. Nord could potentially end up top. Port could potentially end up bottom. I'm going to have to go back through the history books to see whether that has happened previously or how long ago it happened, because it does not happen very often.
Yeah. No, I don't think they've had a SANFL wooden spoon. So, but then it's not Port Magpies, it's Port Power Reserve. So, yeah, it's not the same anyway.
Central's everything to play for out at the Ponderosa there. I'm with you. I think Central's are going to get up as well. Woodville West Torrens v Nord again.
Yeah, I'll go for Nord. I know Nord were very disappointing against Woodville West Torrens at home. Players are pretty hell-bent. They realised they were pretty poor that day. So, yeah, I'll go for Nord.
I'll go for Nord as well, but do we see the Oval Avenue where the pasties are spicier playing a part in this game?
Oh, possibly. Nord's record down there the last few years is reasonable. It's just going to be interesting to see. Pretty important week on the track for a certain number 4, the King. Let's wait and see what happens there. So.
Would like to see him potentially play a couple of reserves games, potentially just to get him in the fitness, and then maybe. It's
got to wait and see. There's a few things behind it all. See what happens.
And then last couple of games around North Adelaide v West Adelaide. Not any real bearing on what's going on.
It's at Prospect, isn't it? I'll go for North.
Wembley of the North.
Yep.
And then the one that's probably got us most interested, not only from top position point of view, but also top 5 position, is Sturt v Adelaide.
I'll go for Sturt, but I'll give Adelaide a reasonable opportunity. They probably lose a player as an emergency to the Crows side of things, which, as we know how important that is. Whether Walker plays or not for Adelaide and Gallant goes back down.
Yep.
Let's wait and see. It's only Tuesday.
It is only Tuesday, yes. It's an interesting one for me. I'm probably going to go Sturt on the home ground advantage, but I think it's going to be tight. So
hopefully it will be tight. Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's move on to cricket, mate. I know that we're coming into your wheelhouse of the season, even though you love your footy as well, but cricket is where it's at. Adelaide have 2 new coaches, both well-credentialed. Welcome to Tim Payne to the Adelaide Strikers.
Yeah, look, my understanding was he was reasonably impressive as assistant last year. Players are happy with that. I would like, also it was a biased thing with Darren Lehman, the romanticism behind Buff coaching the Strikers appeal, but I understand why Tim Payne gets the job.
So I was going to ask you about that. Were you surprised with Ryan Harrison and Buff's relationship that could have worked well?
Yeah, but I think they're trying to divorce the roles, so maybe that might be part. I don't know.
Yep.
I haven't spoken to Rhino about that. As I said, we will get Rhino. I probably should have given him a call for this week, actually.
No, that's okay.
We'll touch base with Rhino this week.
Yep. All right, fantastic. Well, good luck to Tim Payne, and he's got some interesting players there that they've recruited and kept on the list, so we'll see how that all goes about. Melbourne, Sydney and Adelaide pretty much all locked in for the next 7 years. Adelaide have secured the test at least until 2030.
Yeah, so well done there to also whatever role the government had involved in it. It's a common sense thing. Look, I'd love it to still be the January long weekend, but we know that's never going to happen again. Mm-hmm. But at least where it is, hopefully then country people can still get down, understand on the harvesting side of things it's line ball, which is obviously very important. But we support cricket. South Australia, per head of population, supports cricket the best of any state.
Yep.
So, yeah, we deserve that, and it's a good result.
Absolutely. Should the Gabba be redeveloped, and is the decision not to do it at the moment going to cost some test matches now and in the future, which has already happened for the now, but in the future?
After hearing Hockley on the radio this morning, yes, there's a bit up in the air there, and there was well and truly the comment got made how tired the Gabba looks, that it's getting towards the end of its life. It was pointed barbs really there, and so let's wait. And surely with the Olympics coming, I would have thought a whole new stadium would be the go.
I think it's interesting that they've decided to pull out of that particular deal, whether it be moved
bizarre.
or
I
stay
don't
where
get
it is. And they were keen to do the Commonwealth Games, and then all of a sudden that got sort of squashed as well. So, yeah, a little bit of a worry that there may not be too much Test cricket up in Queensland in the near future. So, all right, let's move on quickly. Finishing off on our retiring legends of 2024, one of our listeners sort of put in a request.
Wayne Stremple, Normie.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to start off with three pretty good players here. Dusty Martin, three-time premiership player, three-time Norm Smith medalist, Brownlow medalist, Lee Matthews Trophy, four-time All-Australian, Gary Ayres Award, Jack Dye. I could go on forever and ever, mate.
Big games. That's the crucial thing. You know, just a huge, unbelievable record in finals. And, yeah, he was the one, the Richmond Geelong final at the Gabba. He was the one there. He effectively got him back in the game just before half-time and won him the game.
Absolutely. Dusty deciding at the moment that there's other things more important than footy, but I also think the body's broken down a little bit.
Oh, it has.
And wants to spend a little bit more time from family point of view. All right, let's move on to Tommy Hawkins, three-time premiership player, Coleman medalist, Greaves medalist, five-time All-Australian, including captain in 2022. 11-time Geelong leading goal kicker. Again, I could go on forever with some of these accolades, but initially I didn't rate Tom Hawkins, but over the course of his career, he's just got better and better and better.
If he developed slowly, and we forget key forwards, how long they can take, but it was that grand final where he took Reid to the cleaners in the last quarter and a half to win, be the key player getting Collingwood up. That probably stamped him, and he's really gone on from there. You can argue he went 1 year too long.
Yes.
Because even before he did his ankle, he was struggling.
Slowing down a little bit. If he is healthy, do Geelong play him?
It's a big call.
It's a big risk, isn't it?
Just a lot of footy. Was struggling beforehand. Yeah,
they reckon he's freshened up a little bit, but anyway,
it's an interesting one.
What he has done and what he's done for Geelong and the game is pretty impressive. And the last player this week we're going to talk about on our retiring legends of 2024 is Dyson Heppel, Essendon captain 2017 to 22, All-Australian 2014, Critchin medal 2014, Evans medal in 2011. Again, we could continue on going with some of his stats. Sticked fat with Essendon through a lot of their troubles, and was a little bit disappointing that he didn't get that farewell game at Marvel last weekend.
Very good player, probably the level below, not quite the superstar, not quite the absolute elite, but a very good player.
But if you put him in a different team, does he become that elite player?
Maybe.
Because he did have to shoulder a lot of the responsibility there for quite some time.
And young and misses a year because of their stupidity, etc. So, a lot of things there.
Yeah, still a very, very good player for Essendon. All right, mates. Let's talk about what's coming up. Friday, Bryan Beinke Part 2. Really looking forward to that chat there.
Thanks.
And on Monday, our encore episode, Justin Scripps talks about Glenelg heading into the season.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Looking to buy or sell your home anywhere in Adelaide, from the hills to the sea? Meet Gary Creeves, your dedicated local agent from Owens Castley Real Estate. With unparalleled knowledge of Adelaide's housing market and a commitment to exceptional service, Gary ensures a smooth and stress-free experience for all your real estate needs. Trust the expert, trust Gary Creeves at Owens Castley Real Estate. Your next dream home awaits. Contact Gary today on 0422 071 317 or on email garyk@ocre.com.au. And for more listings, please visit owenscastley.com.au. Make it happen.
Flashbacks.
All right, this week on Flashbacks, we did say we were going to have a look at the Western Bulldogs v GWS. We ended up finding a pretty good game there in the preliminary final in 2016 at Spotless Stadium. In the lead up to the game, there had been some controversy over the AFL's decision to play the match at Spotless Stadium due to its relatively small capacity. What do you think, mate? It is GWS's home ground.
It is an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, it's...
Do they play at Olympic Park?
Provided it's up to scratch too.
Yeah.
You got to remember it's not being used otherwise. I'd love the SCG to both clubs, but I know that's not going to happen.
Yep. Very interesting.
Trust me, I know that's not going to happen.
Fair call. Tickets were obviously released to the members there on Monday, but it didn't take too long for that game to sell out. That boutique stadium, I think we get the privilege of being at Norwood when, there's a good crowd there, that boutique stadium and a bit like the gather round as well. I think that's important for Greater Western Sydney to build on top of that rather than a half-empty stadium.
I think so.
All right, let's sit back and relax and enjoy this game.
By GWS. Got it to McRae on his left, slid the handball back inside. Under pressure was Dunkley as he got the strength to bust it. Went for the fresh area out of the middle. Johannesson, he's a lively player. He can run. Here he goes. Caressing ball to Bontempelli. Bontempelli, no one between he and the goal. Paddles it up. Gets back onto his left foot to hit the front. The Dogs are in front by a point. The knockdown, here he is again, Smith. He's a goer. Left foot high in the air. Anyone's ball. A mark will count. Up goes Davis. The spoil was good. Daniel beat the ball in front of goal. Cordy's got another. They've kicked it. Illegal disposal, said the umpire. So Whitfield slams it on the boot. Jeremy Cameron, up he goes. Couldn't hold the mark. Green with a quick boot. Lands with Patton. He's taken the mark. He'll go back and have the shot. Patton lines up. GWS to stay in the hunt, and they do. 1 point down. And so right now, coaches have got to be thinking, who do you want on the ground to finish the game? Because you may not get them on, Dar.
Pick and smother was enormous. He goes back in, flicked it out to Liberatore, up and under job. Dunkley's the one. Dixon pushed off it. Big pack. Who can get it front and centre? Bontempelli's there. Liberatore. McRae's out the back. He'll hit McRae. Haynes gets there. No, it's McRae. Draws breath directly in front to give the Bulldogs a 6-point lead. He's done it. The Dogs are in front by a goal, and they come from everywhere.
Forwards, the Dogs, number back in the middle we go. Mumford knocks down off the back of the square with Heath short of centre. Put Johannesson off the ground to tie it up. Smith of GWS has got a ripper. Misses. Now it's not in the hands of the best kicker in their team, that is for sure. He goes down the line. 40 seconds remaining. Up they fly. If they go inside 50, they've just about got it. Over the hand of Boyd. Boyd to Stringer. Stringer can go all the way. He kicks to the middle. And Dixon marks. I think the Dogs are going to get there now. The Dogs are going to get there. A point will secure them. At worst, a draw. And a goal will win it for them.
I've been wanting to say this for as long as I can remember. The Bulldogs go through to a grand final. Can you believe it? The siren will sound. A 55-year drought ended. The Dogs are in the grand final.
Wow. What about that? 20,090 days since their last grand final, and the Dogs are...
All right, some synergy towards that as well at the moment with the way the Bulldogs are playing, and boutique ground, obviously, down at Mars Stadium this weekend.
Yeah, true. And that was a great game that night too.
Talking about
Essendon might knock off that 20,000 days since playing finals yet.
Good call on your behalf there. The match attracted an average television viewership of 2.387 million viewers across the Seven Network and Fox Footy, making it the second most watched AFL game outside of the grand final ever. And then, obviously, the 2007 preliminary final between Geelong and Collingwood also rated very, very well there. It's one of those classic games that we could potentially see Do we see the Western Bulldogs potentially repeating the 2016 heroics?
Potentially. They're a bit flaky, though. Like, they've come over here twice and been very average. So, yeah, there's that side of it. GWS, could Jesse Hogan be the guy to take September apart and be that key forward, which hasn't happened for years, to absolutely dominate in September?
Well, they've had some key forwards.
At the moment, he's got the best hands in the comp. He kicked 6-4 last weekend, so he could have pulled clear. It looks like he'll win the Coleman and
All-Australian as well.
The third club side of things.
Absolutely. All right, next week we're probably going to have a look at Port Adelaide and Geelong, but we'll see how the finals format sort of falls. But at the moment, it probably looks like Port Adelaide and Geelong, so we'll have a little bit of a look at that. All right, let's get into the extra time big finish.
Extra time big finish.
All right, we're going to whiz through these relatively quickly today, mate. Tennis, Popperin makes it to the Masters final and wins against Rublev.
Yeah, good result. Well done.
Now moves into the top 25 for the first time in their career. That is huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A quick one, Jack Draper and Felix Alazim involved in a match point where the video referee wasn't used and caused absolute chaos. The tennis are starting to go towards the electronic line calling.
Yeah.
How this wasn't replayed after the decision makes me scratch my head.
Yeah, it was weird.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to basketball. Now, we went with this a little bit last week, but we didn't make too much comment on it because we wanted to see how the chips fell. Scotty Ninnis, obviously sacked from the Adelaide 36ers, he released his statement saying that he's very difficult few days for myself and the family. Completely blindsided by the news. Just 11 days into pre-season. Incredible support I've received from current NBL coaches and players, past and present, 36 Legends family, club sponsors, South Australian basketball community has been overwhelming. I won't read the full interview because I'm sure most of you have already done that, but that's a shock to him and also to everybody.
Yeah, and as he did with Brett Maher walking away. Look, basketball-wise, it's not my number one sport and all that. I really rate Don Shipway, and Don Shipway has been scathing, and even that's putting it mildly, on the 36ers. It's a dark chapter in the 36ers. I tell you what, I wouldn't like to be the coach now because unless they win it, good luck.
Well, you let it in perfectly there. What do we expect from the 36ers? Is it a spike or do we see them being a bit flat?
Who knows? I just don't get it. It's trying to say standards weren't being met. He's come out and said, well, hang on, and all these people have signed on because of me. It's weird.
Yep. It's going to be an interesting watch. All right, let's move on very, very quickly here. Soccer, round of 16 for the Australia Cup has been announced. Adelaide United travel to Olympic Kingsway FC.
Yeah, interesting.
They've
they've got a good record in this tournament, so hopefully they continue.
Absolutely. Yep. Great efforts by the Modbury Jets and Campbelltown City, obviously getting through. Modbury Jets 1-1 draw, but losing 4-1, obviously, they're on penalties, and Campbelltown City losing 5-1. The Oakley Cannons are still in it, mate. Backing up after Sydney FC, they're going to take on Heidelberg on the 28th, which is coming up early next week.
Yeah, big game.
All right, a couple of questions just to finish us off, mate. Were Melbourne too quick to let go of the 2026 Commonwealth Games? Glasgow might be announced as early as this week as a replacement venue or city.
Economically, you've got to say that, hang on, they've done their... Maybe it wasn't a great idea to go to the country as much and could have been done better. Yeah, we've got to wait and see. But I'm for mine, I think the Commonwealth Games is past its use-by date. That you've got World Championships around all the time and all that. I think it's a bit of a Mickey Mouse thing anymore.
Yep.
You know, I know it's great for the athletes, but I'm not sure of its real significance in the sporting hemisphere now.
Fair enough. Passing of track legend Black Caviar and just released obviously late last night. It's Foal obviously passed away there. Going to go down as one of the all-time greats.
Yep. Superstar.
Absolutely exciting. I remember as a youngster back in the day grandfather would go, who do you like for the Melbourne Cup? I'm like, put some money on Caviar because I reckon it'll win, and it just kept winning. So, all right, mate, and to finish us off today, soccer, English Premier League underway in the EPL. Mate, QPR.
Drew. We lost the first game, drew the second.
Yes.
The QPR meet of Adelaide-based or South Australian supporters is this Saturday night at the Arca Bar. So I'll be at the Arca Bar at 9 o'clock on Saturday night to watch the game QPR and Plymouth.
Absolutely, mate. Thought I'd chuck that one in there. And for me, Chelsea going down to Man City 2-0. So
Hey, one other thing, it's only come out this morning, but Matty Richardson, the cyclist, has defected from Australia to go to represent the British in the future.
Yes.
We'll cover that more this week to see the reaction and all that. But geez, it's a big bombshell, and as people are saying, well, hang on, you can pay back the money you had, and it's considering he's represented Australia. I don't mind in the first place if you go that grew up in that country or whatever before you've represented. But hang on, he's just represented. He's won 3 medals at the recent Olympics, and now he leaves because his girlfriend's based over there, and as a few people are saying, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, Matty.
Absolutely.
So wait and see on that one.
All right, we'll leave the good, the bad, the ugly this week, but
that
there
sort
is
of covered it.
Yeah, it did. For me, I'm going to just chuck in an ugly for the week. Something's come out. I know it's not here in South Australia, but it is in Victoria, but it does relate to all sporting clubs going around. There's a bowling club in Victoria that was paying $100 lease. That had run out. Council's come to them and said, no, you've got $60,000 per year to pay on that lease. When you're talking about small clubs and the diversity, this is a bowling club, by the way, a lawn bowling club, so it's obviously
Well, how can you go from hundreds is you can argue that's way unders, but 100 to 60 grand, like what's that, a 6 million% increase? Like Jesus.
From a local club point of view, it's an inclusive type sport.
Yes,
it's a very good meeting ground for a lot of people. To jack up that, and then obviously all their prices are going to have to go up to
I just can't
It's disgusting.
survive on that. That's unreal.
Absolutely. All right, mate, we're going to leave it there for tonight. I thank you once again for your time. Bryan Beinke, obviously coming up on Friday there, so listen out for that one there, and then Justin Scripps on Monday as well. So until then, we promise to do better, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, and love people to support Steen Crash Repairs. Give Craig Steed a ring, or Gary Creeves, and we've managed to get a little bit going with Creevesy. Gary Creeves with Owen Castley.
Absolutely.
So thanks, guys.
So thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you next week.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.